Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Adelaide Conservatives. As per usual, I'm here with Simon McMahon. I'm Luke Munro.
Great to be here, Luke. Been a big couple of weeks in politics, federal, state, local, a lot of things happening.
There's a lot going on.
Oh, I tell you, the US election, that is heating up. We're, a couple of weeks away now?
Yeah, we are. Yeah, we're just over 2 weeks away. And Kamala Harris is starting to do a little bit of media, which is nice to see, especially if you're a Trump supporter.
It's the first time we've actually seen Kamala Harris having to face media, unfriendly media. Well, in her eyes, unfriendly media, but at least impartial media, and a little bit more of a sit-down interview, unscripted, no teleprompter. And it is remarkable how much she has gone toward it very quickly. There is a reason why they didn't want her to do any media, and this is what we're seeing right before our very eyes.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, look. If we go back to basically a fortnight ago, they were at that point where it was getting bad. Their own media was starting to ask questions as to whether, why aren't you doing presses? Why aren't you doing this? Why aren't you doing that? And so I think they were between a rock and a hard place. They were kind of like, and in hindsight, they probably should have just kept that going.
Yeah,
so I think her numbers would be better if people still didn't really know what they were dealing with.
One of the similarities I'm seeing really clearly now is actually with this election and the last federal Australian election, where Kamala Harris is trying to play this low-risk strategy where she's not going to give too much detail. She's not going to really speak about her own personal values. She's going to have throwaway comments saying, we don't have any plan to do that, is Albanese's version of it.
Yeah.
We've got no plans for that. We've got no plan to do that.
It's not on the table.
It's not on the table.
Not on the table is the one that Albo loves.
The one thing I realised in the Kamala Harris interview on Fox was she would use the term, she would say something like, we will follow the laws of America.
Yeah.
So in the past, the border, you've spoken about the border saying that you're in favour of open borders and all these things.
Yeah.
She goes, well, yes, but we're going to follow the laws of America and we have no plans to do that. Well, if that's your personal belief, there is a difference, and that's just a throwaway line. There is a clear difference about being someone who follows laws versus the President of the United States. Now,
yeah, but when she's saying we'll follow the laws of the nation, well, you're the head lawmaker.
Exactly right.
Like, what are you talking about? And like Brett
Citizens
alluded to that afterwards as well. He said I generally didn't know what she was on about.
Yeah, it's citizens' role to follow the law. It's police's role to make sure that law is
force the law. Yeah.
To force a law. The judiciary system makes sure that is applied equally and fairly.
Yep.
It's the political class's role to make the laws. So when you're having the person who's running for president saying, I'm going to follow the laws,
so
well, what are you?
The chief lawmaker.
You make the it's not technically wrong if she then comes into power and she stays true to everything she said in a whole background and philosophy, and she has this big open border policy. She brings that policy in. She gets it passed through Congress. I'm following the laws. Well, yeah, because you change the laws. So when you put it into interviews like that, it is so deliberately scripted to keep the door open to some pretty big changes on policy that's going to go further left in America. And that's what I see very similar with the Albanese government here in Australia. Before the election, he was saying, we've got no plans to do that. You look at stage 3 tax cuts. Certainly before the election, he wasn't actually speaking that much about the voice treaty truth, or a statement for the heart. Post-election, bang, all of a sudden we know that the stage 3 tax cuts are going to be completely axed and changed. The voice is something that's promoted above cost of living and the things that Australians really care about. And now we're hearing, of course, that they're going to have Jim Chalmers has put out I think they have a look at negative gearing again, something they said they wouldn't touch.
Treasury to do the costing on it, yeah.
So, they hide behind these little short statements, but really their intent is in their delivery and in their actions. And, I see actually a real stark contrast. Not contrast, a comparison between the two.
Yeah. And look, I think if we obviously, we're more on the conservative side. We're obviously hoping to see a Trump presidency over there. But I think even if you look at the two candidates objectively, Trump's not the perfect candidate by a million miles. But you look at Kamala Harris, and it's just an empty vessel. Like when you listen to her talk, and she's put on the spot about her past and about issues that are present, she's all over the place.
Yeah.
And she can't give a straight answer. And when someone can't give a straight answer and they revert to filibustering or just political spin to get to the next question, that should make anyone that's sitting on the fence a little bit nervous.
And an American political election of any sorts, let alone the presidency, should be a contest of an ideas and policy and vision for the country.
Yeah.
Kamala Harris isn't putting any policies or vision or ideas. She's basically saying, vote for me because I'm not Donald Trump. Where you may hate Donald Trump, you may not like him, you might agree with some things, but you can't say he's not putting things forward. He's not shy and going forward about his policy, and people don't like it, fair enough, but he's not going to shy away from who he is and what he wants to achieve.
No, that's right. And look, you know, I mean, as I've said many times on here, I am a polling and political nerd, and you like the trend's not your friend if you're Kamala Harris.
Yeah.
You just got to look at, like, if the election was held today, Trump would win 312 electoral college votes, and that's just based on the averages of the polls, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Like, you know, you got things like Morning Consult that are always 5 points wrong in the Democrats' favour. But that's with all of those put in, Trump is still on 312 electoral college votes. So, and that's blowing out.
Yeah.
Last week it was 302. They've now got him picking up Wisconsin. You know, like, I just I can't see how she can turn that ship around. And
it's every sign. So we've spoken before on this podcast about the signs we should be looking for. And going back a couple of months, we were clear. We thought it was a pretty tight contest. But we said to you, the things that you should look out for is the trend. As we said, the trend is not your friend. One poll in itself does not mean anything, but when polls consistently are going in a direction, that is a concern for your campaign. That's what's happening to Kamala Harris at the moment. We've said the betting markets are something to follow because no one has an invested interest to get it more right than the people that are putting money on it.
Yeah.
And we're seeing that dramatically over the last week and a half.
Yeah, that's flipped in the last basically 9 days. That's flipped from Harris was ahead 9 days ago or basically break even. And today, sports bets, $2.30 Harris, $1.62 Trump. So that gives you a bit of an idea of what's going on.
Yeah, and then the third part to it too is not just looking at the nationwide vote, have a look at the swing states.
Yeah,
we're looking at them. They're the ones where the movement is happening. So it's not that a lot of states around America are pretty rusted in where they are. The movement towards Trump is happening in the areas he needs it to happen. Therefore, those three things, we're getting really close to feeling a bit more confident that I think Trump's actually going to get over the line. Actually, I'm going to call it now. My prediction: Trump wins this election.
Yeah, no, I think so too. Oh, look, I mean, I was still nervous about the states I'm more nervous about is North Carolina and Georgia because the polling there in the past has been pretty accurate, and that has it within the margin of error. The ones that I'm not so concerned about is the Rust Belt, because Trump's ahead there, and in the past, the margin of error has always gone against him.
Yeah.
So for him to be ahead, I think that's, you'd be pretty confident you got those. But all that being said, he could still lose a North Carolina or a Georgia, and he'll still win the election. So, I think he's looking good.
The other fantastic surprise throughout this process has been the vice presidential nominee for the Republican Party, J.D. Vance. He has come out absolutely swinging. He has been a masterclass on how you deal with unfriendly media, how to put them back in their place, but doing it in a friendly way. So he doesn't, if you watch him in a debate or when he's talking to some of the media, he's trying to throw some questions that are deliberately designed to try and catch him, he puts it back onto them, but he uses friendly language, he does it with a smile, and he also has facts on his side. He knows his figures, he knows his facts, and he owns them. And but what they do is because he's got so good at that talent, they are becoming shorts all over the internet where they just wrap it up, 30-second clip, put it out into social media. J.D. Vance owns CNN reporter. J.D. Vance, and that's been a bit of a win for them, I think, because where he was at the start, I was a bit worried. He seemed a bit green.
Yeah, I was worried about it.
When we saw at the Republican convention, he looked a bit nervous. He hadn't found his stride. He's definitely found his line and length now, and he's actually been a really effective campaigner for Donald Trump. And on the flip side, his opponent has been absolutely weak and embarrassing.
Yeah, that's right. Look, vice presidential candidates, I don't think are that big a deal. But when there's such a contrast between the two vice presidential candidates, like J.D. Vance just walks all over Tim Walz, it's embarrassing.
Yeah.
So when there's that big a gap between the two, it suddenly is an asset to you.
I think in the past we've spoken that, vice presidential nominees, as you said, don't have that big of an impact on the election. But I do wonder, having gone through 4 years of Joe Biden, where we've seen his decline, people's eyes are a bit open to, well, the vice president is the next in line. That is a real possibility if something happens.
Yeah.
We've seen assassination attempts now to, I think, 3 on Donald Trump. So there is a possibility when you become the vice president, there is a real chance that you will become the president either through something happening in office to the president or the sheer fact that you become the next one in line like Kamala Harris has now for the Democrats to take on the mantelpiece at the next election. So it is a big impact on how these two parties will look in 4 to 8 years.
Absolutely, and let's be real. Would you look at Tim Walz and there's just not much degree of competency or honesty or integrity there at all. At least JD Vance, you might not like his policies, but the guy is articulate and he's highly educated, and he just walks all over Tim Walz.
Yeah, I think the other thing is, when Tim Walz says something that he doesn't think is great politically, he'll say things, I misspoke, or someone took me out of context. There's things
I'm a knucklehead. You don't want the guy that could be your commander-in-chief, just basically admitting the fact that he's a moron. Yeah.
And I think the contrast with JD Vance is they'll try, to bring up his history where he's been critical of Donald Trump in the past. But he owns it. He goes, no, I did say that. I was naive. I followed the media. So he owned up to what he was saying, and it was on him.
That shows that he's actually genuine.
Yeah. He's happy to admit his own failings and his faults and the way he's come on a journey. But then he addresses that really quickly and honestly, and then gets on to the next fact, the next question. All right, let's move on.
Yeah, absolutely.
Where this whole thing where if you tell an outright lie and then you say, I misspoke, and then you do that again, it becomes a pattern, and it's not just a misspeaking pattern. It is clearly trying to...
No, you're a bullshit artist.
You're inflating your own stories, and you're inserting yourself into world events that you think is going to be good for you politically to be a good story. Joe Biden's another... He's done that for years, to be fair. Joe Biden has...
And the problem is with modern social media and people being able to fact check you basically live now. All those bullshit artists from the past are coming unstuck.
I think the other good thing about the JD Vance vice presidential debate is I'm hoping it's going to put an end to this whole fact-checking live by the moderators of a debate.
Oh.
If me and you were going to sit here and have a political debate, and there's going to be a moderator, that moderator's job is to make sure that people are taking their turns, they're not speaking over people too much, they're following the rules that have been pre-approved and preset. Yeah. If this person starts fact-checking me, one, their opinions you can't stop that coming into it when you're fact-checking, because fact-checking in political world is a lot about opinions.
Yeah.
And if I'm going to say something, the person who should be fact-checking that is you.
Yeah.
And if you say something in the debate, it's my job to fact-check, and then the people that are watching it decide. When you have a moderator doing it and stepping in, I think it's actually shown that it's been really weak for the people they're trying to support, because it becomes weak. It says you need more help to get through this.
Yeah.
And if you have someone that can actually debate properly and call that out and move forward, then that becomes really powerful. And I think now, if you are the media, they're going to try and do that in debate, you'd think twice.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because the result is bad for what you want.
Yeah.
America's going to be very interesting. We'll watch that. Yeah. We may do one more podcast before the election, but we'll certainly do one immediately after.
Yeah, absolutely.
To have a bit of a wrap-up of everything that's happened over there and what that means for America and the world, because let's be honest, American policy does dictate foreign policy around the world pretty strongly. So it's going to be a big one for us here in Australia. Anthony Albanese, people have been questioning his judgment over the last couple of days.
Yep.
Now, being conservatives, we do appreciate people that are self-made, that work hard and put money in their own pockets to benefit them and their family, and they've done it through working hard.
Yeah.
The political part of this, for me, Anthony Albanese buying a $4.3 million property, is the political judgment is my question. No, he's more than entitled to set himself up. If he's been successful financially, he's been prudent with his finances, great, fantastic.
I'll be honest with you, I'm probably a bit of an outlier with a lot of conservatives on this. I think people need to check themselves on that.
Yeah.
The guy has every right.
He's got more than right.
If he's done well, he's invested properly, and he can afford to go out and buy a $4.3 million house, good luck to him.
Yeah.
You know, I think I just went, especially on Sky. Sometimes you see some of the commentators
They go a bit.
really getting stuck into it. And I'm thinking, hang on, like that's the dream.
And if the shoe was on the other foot, as Conservatives would be defending it.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so I think I think a lot of commentators have got that wrong. And okay, sure, you know, yes, you can make a story out of it because of the cost of living crisis and all that sort of thing. But I mean, I don't think the guy should be expected to put his life on hold, you know, until the economics look.
Well, he's recently engaged. Obviously, he's got other things happening within his life, and he's more than entitled to set it up. The interesting part for me, though, isn't that. That's not, to me, that's not the story.
Yeah.
The story to me isn't what Conservatives think of this. It's people within the Labor Party, what they genuinely think about this. Because I think some Conservatives will go on Sky or whatever and try and make a point and try and ram home. They don't believe it, to be frank. They would do the same thing.
It's disingenuous, and that's what annoys me.
Yeah.
About you know, people having a go at him.
But there is certain people within the cabinet. There's people within Labor ranks, and there's certainly people within the Greens who are going to be competing against Labor in inner city seats. The housing crisis and young people are going away from. So, you know, the young people that are deserting the Labor Party and going to the Greens. That's the political part of this judgment that I think is the interesting part, because they've already got such a low primary vote. They can't afford to bleed even 1% to the Greens.
Yeah, but I mean, I just think that's just a culture of envy.
Mm-hmm.
Like the guy's got $4.3 million to spend on a house. What's the difference if he spends it now or in 12 months' time when interest rates start coming out?
No, there's zero. And that's what I'm saying. To me, that's not the story. To me, it is the culture of envy. But because the left play the envy politics, I think is a political interesting part of it for me.
I'll tell you what the real story is that no one's talking about. Just look at it from a human point of view. He's getting married. He's bought this house miles away from his own electorate. Maybe Albo thinks the writing's on the wall. Or maybe Albo is thinking, I'm not going to go through 3 years of minority government if he gets there.
That's the personal part of it.
That's the bit that I'm looking at. These decisions he's making and where is the direction he's going in. I think he's looking for an exit.
Well, there's no doubt that he's setting himself up for post politics.
Yeah.
Now the optics of that could be, you know, again internally, if you were someone that was ambitious within the ranks, if you're a Jim Chalmers, you'd be going, oh, hello.
Yeah, but you see it already. Like leaks out of Jim Chalmers' office and everything. They're trying to throw. Like I think Albo should be thrown under the bus, but not for Jim Chalmers. But I think they're trying to throw him under the bus. Well, they're trying to make life as difficult as possible for him because he's not. Yeah, there's some issues. There's not cohesion in the government at all at the moment.
No, there's certainly not. And I think if a few things that have happened around the country at the moment, you compare Labor state governments that are controlled by the right of their party, being in South Australia or New South Wales.
Yep.
Then you compare it to Victoria, who's clearly a far left socialist type government, still a Labor Party, and the federal party has also become that way. You've had the people, the characters of the left have been dominating federal Labor politics for a long time now.
Yeah.
So that has been a really interesting way. But you know, you look at, I heard Chris Minns from New South Wales a couple of things as a Conservative. I'm going, yeah, no, I agree with that.
Yeah, no, it's terrible, isn't it? But I actually think he's doing a good job.
Yeah, which is terribly frustrating. The interesting part, though, is when we have these.
But look at the alternative. This is the problem that the Liberal Party has in Australia. The alternative in Victoria and the alternative in New South Wales, there's no way on this planet I'd ever vote for him.
As Tony Abbott says, Labor light, Liberals lose.
Yeah.
And it's true, because if you don't paint a contrast, then what's people's ambition to vote for you, and also how are you articulating a message of change? Governments change when the people want change, and if the change isn't really any different on paper, eventually you might hold government for 16 years and you get change just through naturally. But after 4 to 8 years, people want change if you can articulate a message.
Yeah, that's right.
And in Victoria, that hasn't been the case. And the fact that that government in particular has got away with everything they've got away with, and there hasn't been a Conservative leader in there going, hang on a minute, this is wrong.
They haven't come like the Liberals.
They would have smashed it.
Close.
That the last election they should have smashed. If you look at everything that Daniel Andrews had done, people calling that out with any competence at all would have smoked that election in.
Yeah.
And we say, oh no, Victoria's lost. The people that no, if they are sold a message like Anywhere, and people see that, and it's actually a major party is.
Like I say, if I was living there, I couldn't vote for the Liberal Party there.
Mm.
I still couldn't right now. Couldn't vote for him.
Yeah.
I'd just draw a squiggle on the paper and drop it in the box. That's what I'd be doing if I was in Victoria. Because the opposition there is completely inept.
Yeah.
It's a basket case.
And sometimes they need to be wiped out to rebrand themselves.
Yeah, but that's the sad thing. They're in a position where Pseudo's he'll probably walk into the premiership at some point in the near future, and he's just like it'll just purely be its time factor, and then he'll be out. He'll be out the following election.
It's what we saw here in 2018 in South Australia. After 16 years of a Labor government, we had a couple of different premiers within that time. It was the Marshall factor. I don't think Marshall won that election on his own hand. It was more after 16 years, it's time for change factor came in.
It's like we'll give the small L Liberal guy a crack.
Yeah. And during that election, there was a couple of things that he was saying that resonated with Conservative voters that would have got in. Well, he spoke heavily around some of the tax reform that he wanted to do. He spoke about payroll tax and that sort of stuff, which...
Yeah. Didn't talk about land tax.
Didn't talk about land tax.
He left that out, so that's and then we still live with that today. Like even though he got tidied up, we still live with the remnants of that, and it costs anyone that owns property a lot more money than it used to.
And the political side of it is it costs the Liberal Party a lot of money coming in from donors because they bit the hand that fed them.
What about considering we're on to local politics here in South Australia? How about the bill that got squashed the other night about banning late-term abortion, or
it would have been
basically killing babies after birth?
It would have been a fascinating night to be in the South Australian Parliament if you were an observer having a look at it, just the sheer optics of how that went down.
Yeah.
And would be entertaining if it wasn't for the fact that it was actually such a serious issue here. So for people that may not know, and it's interesting that a lot of South Australians wouldn't know this, that around 3 years ago-ish, Vicky Chapman brought in a private member's bill into state parliament that allowed late-term abortions in South Australia.
Yeah.
You had to have 2 medical professionals sign off on it, and it allowed for the things that I think a lot of people would agree with in terms of severe disability or risk to the mother's life for abortions. But what people, I don't think, really realised was it wasn't just that. So
No.
it spoke about mental health. So you have the mother who is completely physically healthy, the baby who is completely physically healthy, 38 weeks, some its peers had already been born earlier. It just happened to still be in the belly.
Yeah.
And the mum's struggling with what's going to happen after, and she, at that stage, chooses an abortion. 2 doctors sign off on it. And since that law has passed, there's been 45 of that type of situation in South Australia. Her babies have been over 28 weeks, definitely in the viable stage. I think I heard a stat something like 99% of babies who are born after 28 weeks will have survival. They might have to spend a bit of time in neonatal, but they'll be healthy, fit human beings.
Yeah, that's right. Well, I mean, viability is 23 or 4 weeks now.
Yeah.
With the technology we've got. But yeah, the way that went down, it's pretty complicated, but basically with Dennis Hood pairing with Michelle Lindsay, I just can't believe, I know it's a conscience vote, but I just can't believe that there would be a need to pair with someone in your own party.
Yeah.
Like Dennis Hood, a bloke that's supposed to be a Conservative, pairs, and look, I understand Michelle Lindsay's not well, and they didn't want to force her into the chamber and all that sort of business, but holy crap! Like the pair of them, they want to look out at the next time that they're up for MLC.
Yeah. So for people who may not know, pairing is basically where, and it generally happens between the 2 major parties because they're running down party lines. I'm unwell. I'm in the Labor Party. Say Luke's in the Liberal Party. He will pair out to make sure that our votes cancel each other out, and then vice versa. That can happen in reverse, just to make sure that the elected representative balance is there. The difference of this being is when it's a conscious vote, so the parties don't have to vote down party lines. I would say myself personally, I can't speak for Dennis on this. If it was me in that situation, under a conscience vote, I'm elected to represent the constituents of South Australia in that parliament. I want my vote recorded. I think it's really important. I think that's what we talk about the pairing, but it is so important that in a matter so crucially important for me, I would want my vote recorded on the record.
Yeah. I just can't believe that so many people, regardless of party lines, could look at this legislation that's in place and think that that's okay. But that's the thing I can't understand. Like, how could you, with conscience, we were talking about conscience, but how could you possibly think that was a good thing?
Oh. And one thing we should say, actually, before we go any further in this, is congratulations to you, Ben Hood. You know, a lot of us put a lot of faith in you to actually...
No relation to Dennis.
No relation to Dennis. But Ben Hood, MLC, Liberal member, who put this bill forward, brave decision because we knew you were going to be against a media storm. Everyone was out there labelling this some far-right conspiracy, but you managed to get cross-bench support. You had Frank Pengello come across as an independent. You had 2 Labor members come across. So they're talking about this far-right bill. 2 of the Labor members in the upper house that were elected by the delegates of the Labor Party to be in that position supported your bill. You only lost by 1. Unfortunately, it was probably maybe a bit of an own goal by the Liberal Party.
100%.
But don't let that hold you back, because there's a lot of us here that we're really proud of what you've done, and we hope that you can keep pushing these things forward because it is really important. Now,
and don't forget Dr. Joanna Howe as well, who's been basically
absolutely fantastic.
She's been leading the charge on this, and I just hope she keeps the faith with it.
It must be a absolutely strong, stoic woman who can be freed up to speak her mind on these important issues, to be in the type of work that she is in these institutions that are so left-leaning, but has the moral conviction to stay true to her word, to articulate her view, to rally support. And they came so frustratingly close because everyone says, this was never going to work. 1 vote difference. Terry Stevens is in the chair. He's Conservative. He would have supported it. It would have passed the upper house. It would have to then go to this House of Assembly.
Yep.
And everyone says, well, that would never get through. Labor control that. Well, like, when you look at the first bill...
conscience vote.
The first one 3 years ago in a conscience vote, Tom Koutsantonis, Stephen Mulligan, I think there was 3 or 4 of the Labor MPs. Yeah. Even the Premier himself struggled here to have some amendments, and he was, his morals were, torn apart on that. Those 4 or 5 votes could have changed it, and that wasn't necessarily going to be lost. It would have been another close vote.
Yeah, but that's the thing. Like we sort of start off by talking about Marshall and Vicky Chapman, and like none of those 2 are anywhere to be seen.
Yeah,
and that's how powerful this topic is. And I think people like Michelle Lensick and Dennis Hood need to consider that going forward. People won't forget this.
Yeah. To be fair to Dennis Hood, I think if he was there, he would have voted the way we would have liked.
Yeah, but he didn't.
He didn't, and our criticism is in the judgment of not having... When Liberal Party delegates elect you to a certain position on a ticket, and then the state vote you in, and on a conscious vote you can't have your vote recorded, that's the judgment of error that we see within that. We'll see how that all unfolds.
Yeah, absolutely.
The other thing, before we move on from that, is the media on this, the way they portrayed this bill. I was speaking to some people at work and within the community about this very issue when it came up in the newspapers. People out there believed that this was a far-right Trumpian conspiracy to try and ban abortions in South Australia. They believed
it's just to stop them killing a baby that's born and alive. Basically, that's what this was about, or a baby that is completely viable. I think they're viable from conception, personally, but even the most radical people out there generally accept that a 30+ week baby it's the real deal.
But I think a lot of people in the general public didn't realise that was what was being debated. They literally thought that this was a move to try and stop people that
ban abortion,
to ban abortion for people that might be in their 30th week. They meet with the doctor, they found out there's a serious disability for the child that's going to risk the life of the mother. That's not what this bill was.
No,
that was not touched. Sorry, that's better. My microphone was going a bit off. That stuff has not been touched.
Yeah.
And the fact that the media portrayed it in that way and didn't give equal say, because I honestly think if that was to go to a referendum, it's not something you go to a referendum on, but if you were to poll South Australians and you didn't have the media perspective, you had the facts on the table saying this isn't about a severe disability that could result in the death of the child or the mother or those things. This is about viable, healthy mothers and children having abortions because of mental health reasons.
Yeah.
That's where people go, oh, hang on a minute, I'm not sure that I actually, I didn't know that was happening in South Australia. And of course, federally, there was a bill that Senator Alex Andick, a good friend of this program, sponsored. That was a children born alive bill. When you have an abortion where the child is born and they're alive, and even though they're alive, they are outside of the womb, they don't have the rights. In South Australia, they do. So, there's been some good state law on that, but in other states, they don't have that right. And literally, they have a live human being sitting there, just left aside to die. There's no pain relief, medication, comfort.
Yeah.
They're just, and that sounds horrible, and it's very graphic, and I apologise, but that is the laws that parliamentarians have to debate and the contents on that. And even a law that tried to give an alive human outside of the womb some rights didn't even get it through the Senate. And that's quite sad in my world, that we don't have the moral conviction and compass to have a mature discussion about those things.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
What else is happening locally or around Australia at the moment, or internationally?
Oh, internationally. Well, obviously we heard this morning Yahya Sinwar's no more.
No more.
Leader of Hamas.
Architects of January 7th?
January 7th.
October 7th?
You were always going to say January 6th.
So January 6th would have been...
October 7th. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so, they got him, which, look, I mean, it's good, but I don't know how, there'll always be another, another psychopath pop up to take his spot. But I think it, just that if you've seen any of the footage of it, just the way, like, it's just the irony of these guys. They beat their chests and go around talking about, like, they're such strong men and such big, fighters for Islam and for the Palestinians and all this sort of stuff. And then you just watch them literally die like dogs. Yeah. It's just, it's very poetic.
The concerning part for me is, and I know we've spoken about this, I put a post up on my Facebook page that basically just was a support of Israel and their right to defend themselves, and had some commentary about how weak and two-faced our government has been in that support, in terms of they're trying to have it both ways. They're trying to say Israel has a right to defend itself, but they got to stop doing it.
Yeah. And they have a right to defend themselves, but we want to dictate how you do that.
Yeah, you can't do that with any military force.
Yeah.
But you can defend yourself.
Yeah.
So I put that up, and it was a very well measured post. It wasn't anything too drastic, and I could have gone a lot further whenever I wanted to.
It kind of blew up in your face, didn't it?
It went nuts. So these people, and if you look in their Facebook, they're all lefties. They were attacking me. Someone saying, "I've voted for you before. I'm never going to vote for you again."
The worst thing is, the worst thing is that's exactly how Albo and Penny Wong feel. But they've got no conviction or courage or convictions themselves. That's why you've got the policy or the I guess the talking points from the government about this, because they so badly want to call Israel a bunch of terrorists. But they just politically can't do it, because really, if you feel that way, which we all know they do, just grow a spine. I won't agree with you, but at least you're being conviction politicians.
Yeah, have the courage of your own conviction. And look, some of the posts that were getting and put up by these Australians living here were borderline supportive of Hamas and Hezbollah.
No. Look, I got to be honest with you. I don't want to live next door to those people.
No, it was shocking, and it then went a step further. Some of the people started commenting it were from overseas, and you go, well, how would a bloke with a relatively low Facebook following, and it's 3,200 in Adelaide, very localised to the Onkaparinga area, my Facebook, to be frank.
Simon, you're a celebrity, mate.
How does it get to these overseas Muslim countries for these people to post that have never been to Australia? Look at their Facebook. And the only answer to that is that there's these people in our local community that are on these online chat groups that are spreading these things. Go, oh, here's another one that's saying it, and then they all pile on. It was just
Oh yeah, it could be simpler than that. That they're liking it, and then these radicals, that pages that they follow, are seeing what they've liked, and that's where it all links in.
Yeah. But there has to be a link for these people to be either following a radical page or being in a group where they've shared it.
Yeah.
It doesn't just appear to someone in the Middle East to go, oh, what's Simon McMahon doing in Seaford there?
Yeah.
Well, so that to me, that was a real concerning part, that obviously that these people are involved in these online groups or chat groups or whatever it may be, liking certain pages. And you go, wow, that's happening. It could be happening next door to you.
No, insane. But yeah, that conflict there, obviously, it continues on, and since we last spoke, they've they have pushed on significantly into southern Lebanon, and I'm not really sure. I'm not really sure where it all ends, but I think once they do the retaliation strike on Iran, I think we'll probably have a better picture of where the whole thing's going.
And it'd be interesting to see what a retaliation strike is. Will it be the nuclear facilities? That would be very tricky, problematic, politically tough, but also a big target that would be a big game changer if they could hit it and actually destroy it. They've got the oil fields that they could try and get and hurt the pocket that was funds these terrorist organisations. Yeah. They've also got, which I think would be another a good move, is military bases, weapons, ammunition. Yeah, I think the really smart one is to try and hit their defence missile systems that sort of defend it. Because if you can wipe out their way of defending themselves, their thought process of going for another attack is limited to going, well, if you've just wiped out all of our anti-missile stuff.
Well, I don't understand the whole nuclear facility thing. Like what the fear is of that. I mean, where the enriched uranium is, it would be that deep underground. The Israelis wouldn't be able to hit it without a nuclear bomb anyway. So I think that hitting the facility basically will just slow down their process. I think that's the aim of it. They're not going to destroy the enriched uranium, which will be like kilometres underground. I mean, I think the whole idea of it, the Americans should have hit that 10 years ago. Like, I just don't know. I don't know what they're waiting for. I mean, those facilities should have been taken out a long time ago.
Yeah, the fact that there's been left so long that they are, depending on who you're listening to, weeks or months away from developing a nuclear weapon is an indictment on America and its holding back of trying to be everyone's friend and keep peace. Sometimes you have to show peace through strength.
Yeah, absolutely.
You look through history and you look at World War I and World War II. It was the weakness of some responses that led to the next stage of a progression.
Yeah.
And if you had your time again, if you had hit things harder or said things stronger, outcomes could have been different. They may not have been, but certainly when you show weakness, bullies will take advantage of that.
Yeah, 100%. What else? What else, mate?
Well, it's we're hearing a lot of talk now that we're pretty cemented in what we think is going to be the federal election.
Yep.
Yeah. What's the same one back March, May next year, so sort of the first quarter.
Yeah.
Of next year, and they're getting that information when you look at the parliamentary sitting calendar, when you look at budget preparations, when you look at their thought processes around if there's going to be a rate reduction between then. Everything you say, you go, it'd be stupid for Albanese now to go before Christmas.
Oh no, he can't go now.
He's left that run too late, and the fact that he hasn't had a rate cut, I think, will leave him vulnerable. But I also think it's a naive move, because if we don't have a rate cut and we go through Christmas, and the cost of living is the number one factor still, and people have had to live through a Christmas where they're not buying the presents they want for their kids, they're not putting the turkey on the table at Christmas time. It doesn't matter if you get a rate cut post-Christmas. The damage is done. People have got your opinion set on you, and you have, in their eyes, put a disposition on their financial position in their Christmas and their holiday season, and you're almost toast.
Yeah. Oh, look, I mean, I think it's toast anyway. I mean, the best they can hope for is a minority government, and God, do you really want one?
Yeah. I tell you what, he is so lucky that the Gillard Rudd era happened, because the Labor Party changing their rules on changing leaders. He is the number one benefactor of that right now.
Oh, he'd be gone.
Bill Shorten wouldn't be leaving the Parliament.
Yeah, that's right.
He would be sticking around. Bill Shorten knows that his runway's gone, so he's leaving.
Yeah.
He's announced that. There's another sign that if you have a look at what he's doing, that it sort of gives away when the election's coming as well.
Yeah, the writing's on the wall.
Yeah. Actually, Bill Shorten must be one of the most unlucky blokes, timing-wise, in Australian politics.
Yeah. completely.
He had that election against Scott Morrison, where everyone thought Scott Morrison was on the nose and had to lose. So he got right at the end of the Liberal Party before it was its time factor.
Yeah.
So he's just missed out on that. He's handed the reins over to someone from the left of his party who he doesn't agree with, who's butchering it, that he could, frankly, do a much better job at. If Bill Shorten was in charge of the Labor Party, I still wouldn't vote for them. There's still policies I wouldn't agree with.
They'd be a lot better shape.
But you wouldn't see this craziness that we're seeing now.
Yeah. No, this is the problem whenever you get anyone that's like too far left in charge of anything.
And then you've got to feel almost sorry for, look at, locally you now see here, someone like Amanda Rishworth. She was elected in 2007.
Yep.
That's that Kevin 07 time. And she worked her way up within the party, did well locally, secured a spot, wanted to be a minister. She had to wait so long. The Bill Shorten factor, we thought that was going to be a time for her. She was excited. She was going to get this ministership. She finally gets it under an Albanese government for someone from the Labor right.
Yeah.
She's had to sell these messages that I could tell you right now she doesn't believe in. And she's now going, I've had to wait all these years to become, and we're going to be a one-term government. And if we do go to one-term government or even a minority, it'll still be a disaster. What does that actually mean? Because I can tell you right now, if Dutton wins, he's not going to be a one-termer.
No, I wouldn't expect so.
So it could be a long time for federal Labor to be. There might be that little window of 3 years that they've had in the middle of 10 years of the coalition government. Maybe that's me being a bit optimistically looking at that, but that's what they could be looking at. And federally, Australia has always been a bit more conservative.
No, that's right. Yeah. And look, Labor, except for last time, really, actually, except for last time, and Gough has always had to come to the right to get elected.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and we all saw how well it worked for Gough.
Yeah,
basically lasted 5 minutes. And I think Albo's going to do the same.
You look at South Australia over the last 24 years. It'll be at the end of this election cycle. 20 of those years will be a Labor government because they've stayed to the centre, the right of the Labor Party.
Oh, Labor Party in South Australia is as close to the right, or it's basically it's more to the right than the Liberal Party
of Victoria.
Victoria, yeah. It's or even Queensland for that matter.
Yeah, which is remarkable.
Yeah, absolutely.
There are only things, and when you look at South Australia, is Malinowska still has to pander down because of the rules of the party to the factional warlords of the left. So your Kaya Marge, your Katrine Hilliards, they still need a bit of meat of the bones. He's got to throw them things occasionally, and that's the only slips that he's had is when he panders down to the left of his party, and it's happened a little bit. And I think the longer he's there, that'll start to happen a bit more. That pressure will be on a bit more because when you look at the delegates within the Labor Party, they're moving further to the left.
Yeah, that's right.
So they've got to worry about pre-selections and how they don't necessarily have to worry about pre-selection. They can put their own people in there a bit more than we.
Pre-selection,
but their delegates
decided before they get to that.
Yeah, but their delegates and their union reps still have power within the party machine, and they're going further left where the leadership of the party, the parliamentary team, has stayed centrist, and that's going to be a challenging one for Malinowskis to actually balance, to appease all the people in the party and the machine and go, yes, I'm your leader.
Yeah.
But I don't want to do those crazy things that you're talking about. I don't want to start gluing myself to the pavement.
Yeah.
I want to govern and actually get things done. And that's going to be a challenge for Malinowskis, and that's going to be the Liberals' opportunity to actually hit back. And sometimes they won't give you opportunities, so you have to do brave things like what Ben Hood's doing and finding the things that Labor don't have the courage to put forward and put them forward and be the leader from opposition that could be the part.
Well, the state Liberals here, who obviously, the viewers pretty well aware that we're both delegates for the Liberal Party here.
Yep.
But that doesn't mean we always agree with what they do. But yeah, they've got to stop making bad decisions.
Yeah.
And like what happened, we saw what happened yesterday, and they need to be more organised going into that. Like it just looked like a shit show.
Yeah.
It's embarrassing,
Yeah, and I think again, it could have been a fantastic result for a party that everyone says is down and out, that they don't have the numbers, that all these things. If they had have won that vote, it would have been hang on a minute, these guys are serious. They got them. Yeah, they got ability to actually still hit.
It just looked like amateur hour again.
Yeah,
and I don't know how thrilled I am about candidate for Black either.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, she used to be a Green. I mean, what are we doing here? This just sounds like the old school stuff, you know. Like with the bad candidate after bad candidate. Now, I might swallow my words if she wins, but not who I would have gone for.
I'm hoping that during this campaign she can announce some policy platforms that do actually resonate with the Conservative Party, centre-right party. To be fair, she's had a bit of time with Nicole Flint and Ben Hood, and so maybe we might be surprised. Who knows? But time will tell.
I'll wait for the surprise.
We'll wait for that surprise. Perfect. Anything else you want to hit on before we?
No, I think we're done.
Oh, perfect. Awesome.
Easy. Covered it.
Like I said, we'll probably do one more before the American election, but we certainly be doing an American election wrap-up, so stay tuned, and we'll see how it all goes.
Done.